So to start volume or surface area, we would have to start with the same thing, which would be the area of the base. The area of this base I'm going to divide into two pieces. Piece 1 is going to be that square that's 8 by 8, otherwise known as 64 square inches. Piece 2 is going to be found by putting these half circles together. I have 4 half circles, which is going to be 2 full circles. So each circle has a radius of 4. So pi times 4 squared and then times 2, because there's 2 full circles. Or you can do pi times 4 squared divided by 2 to get the half circles and then times 4. It's going to give you the same thing. Ends up being 100.48 inches squared for the circles, correct? So 164.48 inches squared is the area of our base. From there, we can very quickly find our volume. 164.48 inches squared times 20 inches of height, which is going to give us 3289.6 inches cubed. Correct? How many of you had that for the volume? Okay, so there's a start. For surface area, we've got the area of the base, 164.48, plus 164.48, plus our lateral area. So let's take a look at our lateral area. First thing we need to know to find our lateral area is perimeter of the base. Perimeter of the base here is going to be circumference because those are circles. Circumference of one of those circles is pi times diameter, so pi times 8. And how many circles are there? 2. So times 2. So that's 50.24 inches is the perimeter of that base. So my lateral area is the 50.24 inches times my height of 20 inches, giving us 1,048 inches squared. Does that look right? Or is it 1,004.8? 1,004.8. Okay. So that, add it on to this list. To give us 1,333.68 inches squared for my total surface area. Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, the volume is the space inside of that object.
Yep.
And your lateral area is the
Around the outside edges.
outside, all
Yep.
the way on the outside.
Yep. Yeah, the lateral area, you can think of as the area that connects the bases. And for a regular object like this, where you have 2 equal bases, the lateral area can always be cut apart into a big rectangle. Even this here, even though it's 4 arcs of a circle, you can unroll it into one big rectangle.
And it's not including the top and bottom.
No, that's why I have to add the area of the bases in separately for surface area. Yep. The lateral area is everything but the bases. Technically, the definition of the lateral area is the surface that connects the bases. In your notes, volume and surface area for that one quick. So for volume here, we're going to have to do two separate shapes for volume. We don't have a base where we can do an area of a base times the height and get it all at once. We're going to have to do the cylinder on the inside here first. What is the radius of the circle of that cylinder? 4 inches. And we found that, of course, because 18 minus 10 is 8, so it has to be 4 inches on each end. So our volume for the cylinder, we have to find the area of the base, which is pi times 4 squared, 50.24 square inches. Then we can find that volume as 50.24 square inches times the height of 10 inches. So 502.4 inches cubed. For the cylinder, or not cylinder, well, we've got 2 half spheres. We can take those together and make 1 full sphere. So for the volume of that sphere, it is 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. So on the calculator, you will type in 4 divided by 3 times, I'm going to use 3.14 for pi, times my radius of 4 to the power of 3 equals 267.9 inches cubed. I add those up. You get 770.3. That's my total value. Anybody get that? Halfway?
Why did you do the 502.4?
From the cylinder, the area of this circle here is 50.24. And I multiplied by 10 inches of length for the cylinder. Now, surface area, do I need to put in the area of the base for the cylinder? The answer is no. Can anybody tell me why not? Because the bases of the cylinder are not on the surface. The bases of the cylinder are covered by the half sphere. So the only part of the cylinder that is part of the surface is the lateral area. So we've got to find lateral area for the cylinder, which means we're going to have to find perimeter of that circle. It'll be pi times 8, or 25.12 inches. So you can put that up here in lateral area. 25.12 inches times that height of 10 inches still equals 251.2 inches squared. So that goes in our surface area. To that, we're going to have to add the surface area for our cylinder. So surface area for a cylinder is 4 pi times radius squared. So we're going to have 4 times pi times 4 squared. Which gives us 200.96 inches squared. That is our other ingredient of our surface area. So that gives a total of 452.16 square inches of surface area. Anybody get that? That one was a swing and a miss. Okay, well, let's try. this one. Let's say that this is, let's just do this, because I can. You ever have one of those days where the little hamster just won't get off the wheel? That's not going to work. There, find volume and surface area of that cone shaped thing. Looks like an ice cream cone with a cone with that half sphere on top. Let's see how you're doing. So we're gonna, for our volume, we're gonna break it into two pieces. We've got our cone, and for the cone we have that base that's a circle with a radius of 12. So that area of that base is pi times 12 squared. (452.16 inches squared, or millimeters squared, I should say. Is the area of our base. So that makes the volume of that cone 452.16 millimeters squared times the height of 35 millimeters. What do I have to remember to do to it? Divided by 3. Giving us 5275.2. That is millimeters cubed. That's volume for the cone. For the sphere, it is 4 over 3 times pi times 12 cubed divided by 2 because it is only half a sphere. $36.17.28. Volume for the sphere. We add those together to get 8,892.48 cubic millimeters total volume. Correct? Surface area for the cone. Once again, we don't have to worry about the area of the base because the base is covered. So we're dealing with the lateral area for the cone. For the lateral area, we still need to know the perimeter of the base. The perimeter of the base is going to be the circumference of that circle, which is going to be pi times 24 millimeters. (75.36 millimeters is the perimeter of the base. Are we going to multiply that by 35? No. What do we need? Yes, because this does not go straight down anymore. It goes at a slant. We've got to find that slant. Since this is 12 and this is 35, this is found by doing 12 squared plus 35 squared and adding them together and square rooting, which will give us 37 squared. So that is 37 millimeters there. Right? So the slant is 37 millimeters. Now we can use that to find the lateral area. 75.36 millimeters times the slant of 37 millimeters. We have to remember to divide by 2. $1394.16 millimeters squared. So that's going to go into our surface area. Next, we have the portion from the sphere, which is 4 times pi times that radius of 12 squared, but it's a half sphere, so I'm dividing it by 2. There we got her deal. 904.32 millimeters squared. That goes up here. We add those together. We get 2298.48 millimeters squared. What do you think? All a day's work? Okay, so now the other worksheet I handed out alongside you, because you can keep the quiz till Tuesday to work on. The little hammer might be kind of a fun problem. But I handed out that worksheet on converting measurements to the nearest 16th, 32nd, or whatever of an inch. Now, we have already looked at problems similar to number 2 on that sheet. Problems like number 2, you've got 121.8316 inches, and they want you to go to the nearest 32nd of an inch. So we just put the 121 on its own. We take the 0.8316, put it in over 1 to make it a fraction. Now what do we do to it from there? Times 32 on top and bottom. So it's now over 32. 0.8316 times 32 gives us 26.6. So it's between 26 and 27. It's closer to 27 32seconds. It can't be reduced, so I'm just going to write it as 121 and 27 32seconds of an inch. I could break that into feet and inches. 12 goes into 121 10 times, 10 feet, with 1 left over, right? 10 times 12 is 120. So 10 foot, 1 and 27 32seconds inches. Does that all make sense? Now we're going to back up to problem number 1. We've not done any like this yet. 4.1785 feet. Before we do anything with this one, we're going to take off the 4 feet. Now I got the 0.1785. By the way, this was to the 16th of an inch. What am I going to do with that 0.1785? Yeah, it's in feet, so I've got to turn it into inches. So I'm going to multiply by 12. So I get 2.142. Now it's in inches. And now I'm going to take off the 2. So now I'm going to take the 0.142 and do what? over 1 times 16 on top and bottom. So 2.2, which is closer to 2/16 than it is to 3, so that's 1/8. So 4 foot 2 1/8 inches.
So if I'm changing a third, and I want to find the nearest 16th.
If you have 1/3, divide it out, make it 0.33333, then times 16. Gives you 5.
5.33333.
See, so that's closer to 5, so 5/16. Now I'm going to show you how to run this through your calculator. This top one, 121.836. That's in inches. So first of all, I'm going to change it into feet by dividing by 12. So that's my 10 whole feet, right? 10 whole feet.
What are you doing?
I'm doing this all through the calculator now, instead of by hand. So I took my 121.8316, is what I started out. That was in inches. I divided by 12 to make it feet. So I've got 10 whole feet. So I'm just going to subtract out the 10. I wrote down the 10 feet here. Now what's left there is decimal feet. I'm going to change that back into inches by doing what? Times 12. So now it's 1.836. That's 1 whole inch. So I'm going to subtract my 1 inch. Every time what I'm doing is taking off what's in front of the decimal point and leaving what's behind the decimal point. Now that 0.8316 I want to the nearest 32nd, so it's times 32. Come on. 26.6. So that's where I got my 27 32seconds. Now for one like the second one here, I'm starting out with feet, so 4.1785. I would just write down, since this is already in feet, I would write down the feet, so take off the 4. Or I just wouldn't punch the 4 in when I punch 3 in. I'm going to change that into inches, so times 12. Gives me a 2, so I'd take off the 2 whole inches then right here. So subtract out those 2. 0.142 is going to be times, this I'm going to the 16th, so times 16. Gives me 2.2, which is closer to 2/16. Gives me the 1/8. So what I want you to do for the last 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes here, the first hour, I want you to do that worksheet. Get all of those to the nearest fraction of an inch. But I want feet, inches, and then 8ths or 16ths or 64ths, whatever it's asking for. So have it in this form, feet, inches, and then whatever fraction.